And I want to get started by having you introduce yourself a little bit, kind of giving us your background of where you went to school and what you studied and your name.
Cool. So Brian Knauss. So I went to Virginia Tech. I got a BSEE, or I got a BS in electrical engineering. And then from there, through my professional career, it started out as a designer for about 5 years. I was doing, I'd say, more on the intense design side of things. And then I went through this total roller coaster of going through project management, and then I've been a product manager for about 8 years now. And that's gone from, my first job was in consumer electronics. I went into defense contracting for a little bit, back to consumer, over to NASA for aeronautical for a tiny bit, and then mostly consumer since then. And then right now I'm in financial. So it's been different jobs and different teams and all over the place.
Yeah, you've had a lot of transitions. I had a couple internships for defense contractors, and I felt like once I got into defense, they just keep like coming at you and trying to like keep you in that like realm.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you feel? Once you graduated college, you went into industry right away?
Yes, I did. I was lucky enough where, and that was 2004. So I was trying to think. I don't think we had any lingering effects from that kind of 2000.com bubble. Even though my grades were frankly not great, then I was able to get a dream job. I mean, so I'd done a bunch of, like I was a drummer growing up, a lot of music, and I landed a job at Polk Audio doing like car audio and home theater. So that was kind of a dream job. And I lined that all up maybe a month or two before I had graduated. So
oh, nice.
Everything was very smooth from that point. I'd say after that, things got a little hairy, especially going through 2008, and then kind of the startup land and small company land after that. So,
do you mind diving into that a bit more, like your transitions from whether it was like corporate to startup and et cetera, like, and how you kind of dealt with those?
Yeah. So Polk was, we'll still call it a small company. I think about 100 people, even when at the peak when I was with the company. I was there for about 4 years out of school, and then 2008 hits. And even though Polk itself was doing well financially, even with some of the, people aren't buying as many speakers at that point, they're part of a bigger corporation that some of the other companies in the corporation were just doing horribly. So, they owned, back in that day, it was the XM radios or the Sirius XM radios, and that just totally plummeted. A few other areas too, car alarms of all things. So even though Polk was doing very well, then because everybody else was doing poorly in the corporation, they said, okay, got to do layoffs. It was one of those things where it was the worst kept secret in the office. So a month or two ahead of time, basically everybody in the company knew through water cooler talks and rumors and everything, something's going to happen. So I would say I count myself very lucky that I saw it coming. And it was odd enough, the job that I eventually took, the final interview, as I get out of the interview, my boss calls me to give the official news that I wasn't laid off, but somebody else on my team was laid off. So I would have been fine. That's kind of I guess you would say the funny part of it. But that started my crazy journey and roller coaster through professional life. So like I said, I went to defense contracting after that. It was meant to be a contract to hire position, but at the end of that contract time period, they didn't hire me full time. And again, you're still feeling the effects of 2008. And I just didn't feel comfortable going, okay, you're just going to sort of renew it whenever you want to, and you can get rid of me whenever you want to. Doesn't feel right. So found another startup to jump in, and that was 10-person company. That was the real start of my startup life or small company life. And unfortunately, they were also going through, the post 2008 crisis, doing okay, but they only had enough money to hire so many people. And I was brought on to be kind of product manager and QA and engineering and all these other things. And on the electrical side, this particular company is making accessories for Kindle. And we had all these product ideas that would need to physically plug into the Kindle. And it wasn't working out because Amazon wasn't playing well with us, to put it nicely. And they eventually went, hey, sorry, Brian, we need to go a different direction. So after 6 months, I was gone and started a 4-month journey of being unemployed in a terrible, terrible, financial crisis. And it's not, I mean, trying to compare 2008 to right now, where are we at? 30, 40 million people unemployed. It's not the same. It's absolutely not the same. But, as somebody that's a little bit younger, being in an area in Washington, D.C., that there just weren't jobs, especially tailored to my background or my industry experience. It, it, it was really tough. It was really, really tough trying to support that. On the personal side, I was going through a divorce too, and had to sell a house, short sell it. It was just one thing after the other. Luckily enough, somebody came to me from Honeywell and said, hey, here's a contract position through NASA. Awesome, got that. And then, like, long story short, after that, I said, DC, contract life, defense contracting, government work, not my thing. Let me go out to California. And I was in San Francisco Bay Area for about 8 years and living the ups and downs of startup life and the high highs and the crushing lows when you see half of your friends laid off around you. So went through all that fun. And then kind of tie it off with all my fun was that part of a mid-sized company most recently and got laid off back in July, and then had we'll call it 8-month staycation or fun employment. So that was also very interesting in a different part of my life too. So it's not like the title. It's not linear at all with life and employment. It's not like my dad who worked at HP for his entire career.
Mm. Yeah, wow.
It's a lot of information. It's a ramble.
No, that's okay. It just it makes it's like it sucks that you have to go through all that, but then it makes me and I feel like others feel reassured that even through unemployment and recessions, like, you make it out of it and you're alive and you're outside and life is good. But I do want to know, like, during your times of unemployment, how were you during those times? Like, what did you do?
Oh, geez. So I'll use my most recent 8-month vacation as an example, because I think I handled that a lot better, a little bit more mature, at least mentally, versus that 4 months of unemployment in my younger life where, I was looking for jobs, but I was spending a lot of my other time like playing Call of Duty, quite frankly. So not the best use of time. But so I think some of the most important things I found along the way is it's going to be depressing at times, especially when I've got 15 years of industry experience. I've got 8 years as a product manager, and I just routinely people are going, "You're just not the right fit for us, Brian." Getting through those final interviews, and there's like 5-10 final interviews where I felt like I've got this. I really have a good feeling about it. And at the end of the day, hey, sorry, we just found somebody that's a better fit, whether that be specific experience. The list could be very, very long. And you have to learn to just kind of let that go and keep pushing on. I actually had one experience where I was handed an offer, and a week after that, startup, all the fun stuff behind that, but they rescinded the offer without a real clear explanation. So I'm sure there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, but just like crazy, crazy stuff happening. And some of the things I found out that really keep you grounded and like at least sane during all that, whatever habits or routines you had before you're laid off or whatever, going through school, keep those routines. Get up at the same time every day. Make sure you're keeping like emotionally, physically, keeping everything in check. Because if I didn't have those routines, I just go absolutely nuts and just and I was going through that sometimes. Like I go LinkedIn, Indeed, everything. I'm just like viscerally and emotionally like, okay, let me hit refresh. Is there one new job I can apply to? But if you have that routine, if like I'm walking the dog for an hour or working out or spending time with the family, or most importantly, I think was going back and learning and showing people, hey, I'm not just taking an 8-month vacation and doing nothing and playing Call of Duty or Xbox anymore. I'm trying to better myself and prove that I do want a job and I'm not just going to be this lazy bum for whoever does eventually hire me.
That's a good point. I think a lot of people during this pandemic right now are struggling with that, myself included, like getting myself to wake up at like certain times or just holding yourself accountable. But like also giving yourself grace to like, okay, like this sucks. Like let's take a moment. Um, that's yeah, that's tough. And you had to go through it twice. How do you
Yeah.
think maybe like the first one of that first 4 months of unemployment kind of better prepared you for the second round?
Um, I guess the good thing is I'd been through it before,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, going through a few startups and the ups and downs, and having to leave after seeing everybody around you laid off, or choosing to leave before you're laid off. That tough experiences, but it does better prepare you. I'd say on the flip side is I was very confident that when I got the news that basically the entire office here in Austin was laid off, that oh, this is going to be like a month or two. This is going to be nice. I can spend time with the family, but at the same time, go find something different. And greener pastures, better horizons, all that stuff. And after month two and then month three, and you're getting rejected, quite frankly, what feels like left and right, it's tough. But like I said, having gone through the experience before, it does prepare you to a certain extent, but it's just constantly evolving and changing. If you have poor expectations from the beginning, if you think you're going to get a new job in a week or two, it's not going to happen. I mean, just the hiring cycle, it's going to take at least a month from that initial talk with the recruiter through the final offer, if everything goes smoothly. And I've been through interview processes before that go for multi-months. So realize it's going to take a little bit, mentally prepare, financially prepare, and hope for the best along the way, and work your ass off to make sure you do look like the top candidate when some hiring manager is choosing between a few different people.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, that is tough. Like I feel like people are like, oh, I'll just find a new job like super quick. And it's like it's not in your control. So like the hiring process.
No, it's not. And I mean, specifically with the last company where I was laid off, there's one person in particular, within days, he had a offer in hand and he was ready to go. And then there's some people like me that it took quite a bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Austin is very specific, I would say, on you have to have software background. There might be different industries, but they're generally with all the people moving here with great talent. It's it's tough. It's a competition for whatever position you might want, even if you have the greatest resume in the world.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing your experiences today. And before we wrap up the interview, I like to ask the final question of what is one piece of advice that you would maybe give yourself during that first 4 month round of unemployment, or that you would like to give to people today going through this pandemic?
I'd say continued learning, and it can be direct. Like personally for me, last year it was going through, and even though I had programming experience through a couple of jobs, then it's like, okay, I'm going to get certifications just to show other people, number one, that I do have the knowledge instead of trying to talk through it or just looking through a resume and not seeing enough bullet points. But number two is just refresh my brain and be a better worker. Or it can be indirect stuff, like just some of the podcasts I listen to. It's like artificial intelligence, physics, things I'm not going to be particularly touching anytime soon, but at least it keeps your mind going instead of becoming a big ball of mush.
Yes, very true. Thank you for that advice, and thank you for being on Life